It's not my problem. It's not the United States Border Patrol's problem when people try to force their way into the country unlawfully.
New resources to handle the asylum seekers, how the Trump administration is trying to clear the backlog at the border. The race for governor comes to El Cajon, how Gavin Newsom is trying to sell his campaign to voters in San Diego County.
I look back on my 8 years as sheriff, and I believe we're making a difference in this county.
Across this county, as I've been campaigning, I've heard over and over and over again about mistrust.
And the key issues shaping up in the race for San Diego County Sheriff. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The candidate leading in recent polls for governor made a campaign stop in El Cajon this afternoon. KPBS reporter was there as Gavin Newsom spoke at an event at Grossmont College.
In this building behind me, current California Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, who's also a governor candidate, met with students and community members.
Let me try to elevate out of the political and frame this conversation from a policy perspective.
He held a small roundtable discussion. People here had the chance to sound off on things like education, wages, and housing affordability in California. Newsom says we need to make housing more affordable, but in a place like San Diego, that's easier said than done. Last week, Newsom inserted himself into a heated San Diego debate about gun shows in Del Mar. He sent a letter to the Fairgrounds Board of Directors asking them to discontinue the Crossroads of the West gun shows.
I'm not ideologically opposed to people owning weapons. Quite the contrary. I just think comprehensive background checks make sense and keeping them out of the hands of criminals. I think this is a cultural moment, not just a political moment across this country and in this state, particularly with our youth. And I think people are demanding change.
Now, we also had a chance to ask Newsom about a possible SB1 or gas tax repeal. That tax was passed last year to help pay for things like road repairs, but that could go away soon. A group against the tax says they have enough signatures to put a repeal measure on this November's ballot.
They'll take $52 billion off the table, all the jobs that are created, all the projects that can be complete, and they offer nothing except rhetoric that somehow magically the general fund will manifest all those dollars to replace it. At the same time, we have to deal with tuition increase at the UC and CSU and deal with homelessness as a crisis. They're making that up. I reject this notion of repealing the gas tax.
The San Diego County Registrar of Voters says they're still working to count and verify those signatures. In El Cajon, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Lawmakers in Sacramento met with members of the real estate industry today. They're working on a package of bills to address the state's housing shortage. Supply took an unexpected hit last year when wildfires and mudslides destroyed thousands of homes.
We had a reduction by about 25% of the new housing stock. Even that, what normally would be something that would just be a little bump in the road, has become a major obstacle.
One of the bills under consideration would establish tax-free savings accounts for first-time homebuyers. The elections on June 5th may be called primaries, but for some local races, June is your only chance to vote. That's true for the district attorney race in San Diego County. KPBS reporter Taryn Minto says the interim DA is running against a criminal defense attorney seeking change.
This is an opportunity for the candidates to introduce themselves.
In a small room above the City Heights Library, the candidates running for district attorney shared the stage. Interim district attorney Summer Steffen.
I've held leadership positions on the local, state, and national level.
And deputy public defender Genevieve Jones-Wright.
I'm running for district attorney because the DA's office has been staunch opponents of criminal justice reform.
The two, whose careers put them on opposite sides in a courtroom, present a polarizing choice for San Diego voters. Steffen says her path to the prosecutor's office was influenced by her grandmother, who survived the Armenian genocide.
She would say it's really important to take advantage of
the education, the ability for you to have a voice, to help somebody else.
She says she excelled academically and reached high school 2 years earlier than most, making her a target for bullies. Stefan says her past pushed her to fight for victims as a prosecutor for more than 28 years. She says she led efforts to support those traumatized by traffickers.
A victim-centered human trafficking task force that holds offenders and organized crime accountable, but also deals with victims with dignity and respect.
She also emphasized her work for child victims. She says she used new practices to support young witnesses in a 2010 school shooting, and she successfully prosecuted the gunman.
Which was tougher than it looked because he brought an insanity defense, and 2 court-appointed doctors said he was insane. But having a little bit OCD about little kids being shot, I read every single thing he ever wrote on his computer. I reviewed his whole history, and we were able to show that he was not insane.
And last summer, the county supervisors appointed her as interim DA, despite criticism that it would give her an advantage in the election. While Stefan's name recognition presents a challenge to her lesser-known opponent, Genevieve Jones-Wright says her nearly 14 years as a criminal defender would bring a fresh perspective to the DA's office.
I'm a person who has been working in the trenches every single day, seeing how these policies and decisions that come out of the DA's office affect people, families, communities, whole neighborhoods, and this entire county.
Jones-Wright grew up in San Diego's Lincoln Park neighborhood, where she says she witnessed encounters between the community and the police.
All of the time, and it was never a positive interaction.
She says people deserve second chances, but claims too few of her clients receive Deputy DA recommendations for programs that would divert them from incarceration.
When you have circumstances where you know that someone has come to you and they have juvenile delinquency records, that means they've been court involved before. So what happened along the line that they didn't get the help to prevent them from coming into adult court?
Her opponent, Stefan, actually had a hand in establishing one of those programs for veterans. But Jones-Wright claims Stefan would continue what she calls a reform-averse administration. Jones-Wright pointed to Stefan's former boss, who opposed state laws that would reduce some crimes. San Diego voters approved them.
These reform measures signaled the direction that San Diegans wanted to go in, where we were saying some punishments are too severe for the crimes.
At the recent forum in City Heights, Stefan said the office has taken a proactive approach since California passed recreational marijuana.
To find out if there is anyone that is incarcerated based on old laws that would not be under the current law.
However, Jones-Wright countered that it was a collaborative effort.
That the public defenders are the ones doing the applications because the district attorney is not just summarily taking things and reducing them down.
It's unclear how well each candidate will draw voters to the polls. The City Heights Forum was mostly filled with Stefan's friends, family, and other supporters from outside the community. An unaffiliated Mid-City resident said he wasn't aware the race would be decided in June. Another said she felt she lacked election information overall. And a third said she left the forum more conflicted over who would get her vote than when she walked in. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
The San Diego County Sheriff oversees jails and courts. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says there are only 2 candidates on the ballot, the Republican incumbent and the Democrat trying to unseat him.
We're really not about capturing headlines, we're about capturing criminals.
This is from a campaign video for Sheriff Bill Gore, a Republican and the county's 2-term incumbent.
I look back on my 8 years as sheriff and I believe we're making a difference in this county. We hire the best people, we give them the best training, they're the best equipped, and all that's really important. But unless the community you're serving trusts you, you really don't have anything.
The issue of trust between law enforcement and civilians is present in this sheriff's race, just like it is across the country. In his campaign video, Gore says things are good.
What I value the most is that we've earned the trust of the people in this community, that trust in my department and me in particular. I feel like I'm the right person for this job, and I hope that the people of San Diego County will instill their trust in me for one more term.
Across this county, as I've been campaigning, I've heard over and over and over again about mistrust, especially from our communities of color.
Dave Myers is Gore's only challenger in this race. Myers is a Democrat. He started as a deputy in the sheriff's department, and over the past 33 years has worked his way up to the commander level. He says he's running to replace his boss to restore trust.
What I'm going to bring to the table within the Sheriff's Department is trust and accountability within one of the largest local law enforcement agencies. Reduce crimes. I'm going to test rape kits. I'm going to fully implement body-worn cameras within the San Diego Sheriff's Department.
I meet Myers downtown, across the street from a county jail. Myers says part of why he's running is to reduce inmate suicides, something called out as a major problem by a nonprofit last month and a county grand jury report last year.
And when the sheriff was told by the grand jury, you have the highest rate of inmate suicides of any county jail system in the state of California, that information was dug up by local reporters. That information was published. He knew about it year after year after year, but in the end, what he decided to do, instead of fix the problem, be transparent about fixes in the county jail system, he attacked the reporter.
Gore did not respond to multiple interview requests in time to be included in this story, but he did do an interview with the San Diego Union Tribune editorial board, which agreed to let KPBS use the audio. On the issue of trust, the board asked him whether all the high-profile police shootings of unarmed black men called for the Sheriff's Department to reflect on or review its own policies. Here's Gore's response.
It's something we constantly look at. I mean, we've had the shootings in Missouri. This is a continuation. It's something we look at. Are we doing the proper training? What we call it tactical communication, de-escalation. We do that. Obviously, it starts in our regional academies. It's part of our continual professional training for our deputies.
One pretty fundamental difference between Gore and Myers is their approach to the office of sheriff itself. Last year, the County Board of Supervisors voted to ban all sales of marijuana, medical and recreational, in the unincorporated county. Gore stayed out of that policy debate. Now his department is struggling to keep up with all the illegal marijuana dispensaries cropping up. Myers says the sheriff should be part of the discussion around cannabis policy.
Yeah, so I see my role as the elected sheriff to advise the policymakers on the facts. I don't think the policymakers have received the facts. I don't think they've received an honest evaluation of what it truly means for law enforcement to sit at the table with the industry and create safe access. To me, and based on my experience of 33 years in law enforcement, that is how we create less crime.
Gore is favored to win re-election. He's ahead in fundraising, and June elections tend to favor incumbents. The question is whether Myers can ride the expected blue wave of Democratic turnout to unseat his boss. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Our media partner, iNewsSource, is following the money this election season. Here with the latest cash reports for the sheriff's and district attorney races is iNewsSource reporter Jill Castellano.
Interim District Attorney Summer Stephan, who was appointed by the former DA, has been outraising and outspending her competitor. Stephan has raised $124,000 since January. Genevieve Jones-Wright, a deputy public defender with the county, has raised $95,000 in the same time frame. And both of them have gotten big checks from political parties. Stephan received $10,000 from the county's Republican Party, and Jones-Wright received $34,000 from the county's Democratic Party. Meanwhile, the San Diego County's sheriff's race is neck and neck financially. Incumbent Sheriff Bill Gore has raised $66,000 since January, while challenger Dave Myers has raised $61,000. Gore's donations include a $10,000 check from the county's Republican Party, and Myers received $11,000 from the county's Democratic Party. But Gore is still outspending Myers. He has spent more than double what Myers has since January, including $14,000 on television ads. To learn more about the money behind this year's county elections, go to data.inewssource.org. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Jill Castellano.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. As the June primary nears, KPBS News will continue to reach out to candidates. You can see more of our election coverage at kpbs.org. San Diego County has made settlement offers to all 15 women who accuse a sheriff's deputy of sexual assault. Only 2 have accepted the offer. The details of the settlements are being reported in the San Diego Union Tribune. The 2 settlements total more than $400,000. Richard Fisher is out on bail after being charged with 14 criminal counts related to the allegations. He has pleaded not guilty. The settlements are related to civil lawsuits filed by the women. The Trump administration is sending more resources to the border to deal with the immigration cases, including the caravan of migrants waiting at the San Ysidro port of entry. Earlier today, Attorney General Jeff Sessions spoke about the added focus.
Will be about a 50% increase in the number of immigration judges who will be handling the asylum claims. We are not going to let this country be overwhelmed. People are not going to caravan or otherwise stampede our border. We need legality and integrity in the system. People should wait their turn, ask to apply lawfully before they enter our country. So we're sending a message worldwide: don't come illegally.
A total of 18 immigration judges will be brought in, along with 35 assistant U.S. attorneys. More than 100 members of a Central American caravan are waiting in Tijuana, seeking entry into the U.S. 28 have been admitted to begin the asylum process. The Justice Department says 11 members of the caravan are facing charges for illegal entry. California's population is approaching a big milestone. The State Department of Finance says 309,000 people moved to California last year. That brings the total population just under 40 million. Of the 482 California cities, 421 saw an increase in population. Only 57 saw a decrease. California is expected to reach 40 million people within a few months.
We think that it's probably going to happen sometime before the end of the summer, so maybe August, September. It's always a little bit unclear when that actually happens, but we are getting pretty close.
Of the state's 10 largest cities, Sacramento had the largest population growth and now has more than 500,000 residents. An administrative law judge is rejecting SDGE's plan to build a 47-mile natural gas pipeline from Rainbow to Miramar. The utility was asking to build the 36-inch line to replace a 16-inch pipeline that runs along the Interstate 15 corridor. Ratepayers would shoulder the $639 million price tag. The judge's decision isn't the final word on the project. That will come from the California Public Utilities Commission sometime this summer. 4 years ago, San Diego County warned a developer at Lake San Marcos that it faced fines for unpermitted construction. The violations still exist, and the county has never fined the company. iNews Source reporter Nicole Tuiao explains.
That developer is Citizens Development Corporation, which owns the man-made Lake San Marcos. Here's the issue. The company built luxury camping tents, an outdoor pavilion, and a hiking path without permits on land partially owned by a homeowners association. Today, the developer faces potential fines of over $500,000 for the violations. Residents like Dottie Georgians and Kip McBain are asking why more hasn't been done to fix the problems.
Why hasn't the county behaved in this case like they do in most cases? What is it that makes them behave differently here?
A spokesman for the County Planning and Development Services Department says the developer hasn't been fined because Citizens Development Corporation sued the homeowners association that owns the land it built on. The spokesman said the department will let the courts sort out the issue for now. Both sides agreed to arbitration in November, but the case continues as residents grow more frustrated with the lack of action. For more on this story, go to inewssource.org. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Nicole Tiao.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Trump's lead lawyer in the Russia investigation is stepping down. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Cloudy, wet weather stuck around for another day. This is what it looked like in Oceanside this morning, where people were fishing on the pier. The weather will soon dry out and sunshine is set to return. Julia Wyden has details in tonight's forecast.
Hey, I hope you're having a great Wednesday evening so far. We did have some wet weather around today, but the chance for showers is coming to a close. Overnight, we'll see that rain wrapping up and we'll be in a warming and drying trend with lots of sun over the next few days. Satellite and radar shows those passing showers that have moved through the area. As we widen out the view for you, you can see that off to our east, there's more abundant moisture in that direction. Right around the Four Corners, there's an upper level low pressure system, and that's driving all of that rain and even some high elevation snow that we're seeing. Around here, it's not a whole lot, but any rain that we've had has been beneficial. We do need to have rain to help alleviate the drought situation. Tonight, though, that area of low pressure lifts off to the north and east and takes the wet weather with it. Will be cloudy and in the mid-50s. As we take a look around the area, you'll see lows tonight dropping to the low 50s in Chula Vista, down to 53, 50 in Oceanside. Let's take a look at tomorrow's forecast. On the map, again, you can see that there will still be some showers over parts of northeastern Nevada into Utah, but Southern California will be staying dry and temperatures will be warming up as well. Highs will make it up into the upper 60s in San Diego. We'll be at 68 in Oceanside, 67 in Chula Vista. Okay, let's talk about air quality. We'll have high pressure building in, and that is actually going to reduce our air quality over the next few days. Looks good, though, for your Thursday. As we take you on into Friday, you'll see a transition into yellow here, and that means that the air quality will be declining. Let's talk about your weekend, Saturday in the afternoon. Again, coastal areas need to be especially cautious, especially those who are particularly susceptible to any health-related issues due to poor air quality. We'll see a slight improvement for Sunday. 5-day outlook has that warming trend. Saturday and Sunday will be in the 70s at the coast. Let's take you farther inland. We'll make it up to the upper 80s on Saturday. And as we look at your extended forecast for the mountain region, temperatures here will be in the mid-70s with sunshine over the weekend. Your forecast in the deserts getting up into the triple digits. Back to you, Ebony.
The data firm at the center of the Facebook privacy scandal is shutting down. Cambridge Analytica announced today that the controversy caused its customer base to vanish. In a statement, the company said it was vilified for actions it says are both legal and widely accepted in the online advertising field. The company is accused of obtaining Facebook user data in an unauthorized way when it was working with the Trump campaign. California's largest city is taking steps to regulate short-term rentals through services like Airbnb. Today, the city council approved a plan that would limit homeowners and landlords to 120 rental days per year. The city would allow certain exceptions to that limit. LA officials say more than 500,000 short-term rentals were booked last year. A company described as the Airbnb of cars is working with the state assembly to regulate itself. Turo is a peer-to-peer car-sharing service. It's the sponsor of a bill that would require it to follow the same rules as major car rental companies, specifically when it comes to recalls.
When we have the advent of newer technologies, it's important that we have the framework so that consumers, when they're using such technologies and or apps, that they also can expect the same type of regulations to protect themselves.
The bill was approved by an assembly committee this week. If it becomes law, Turo and similar companies would be able to rent out vehicles would not be able to rent out vehicles with unrepaired recall. NASA's next mission to Mars will take off from Southern California this weekend. A robot named InSight will look for clues that might help scientists learn more about the planet's origin. AP reporter Kathy Young has the story.
NASA is sending a robotic geologist that will dig deeper than ever into Mars to help scientists learn about the early history of the red planet. Many previous missions looked at the planet's surface.
InSight mission is a mission to go and probe the deep interior of Mars in order to better understand the very early formation processes of the Earth and all the rocky planets.
The Mars InSight lander will take about 6 months to reach the planet. It doesn't have wheels, so once it lands, it stays put.
So this is the robotic arm.
A thin probe will burrow down about 16 feet to measure the planet's temperature. Another experiment will measure the planet's wobbly rotation on its axis.
So this is the cover that goes on top of the seismometer.
A seismometer will study Marsquakes, similar to earthquakes, which may reveal clues on how the red planet was formed.
We'll be able to tell, what the composition of the mantle is. We'll be able to see how big the core is and what it's made out of.
The spacecraft will also be carrying small briefcase-sized satellites that will break free after liftoff. NASA will experiment to see whether they can be used to relay data back to Earth. All this collected information could give scientists a look at Earth's early days.
We want to understand what happened in those first few ticks of the clock. On the Earth, that evidence has been mostly erased by plate tectonics and by mantle convection.
InSight is scheduled to rocket away from Central California's Vandenberg Air Force Base this month. It will be NASA's first interplanetary mission launched from somewhere other than Cape Canaveral.
People in Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and they tell me even down to San Diego, you should be able to have a good show for several minutes as long as there's no clouds in the sky.
InSight will spend about 2 years in its primary mission of looking at the heart of Mars. Kathy Young, Associated Press.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.